Well, as you can tell, the menorah lighting at the White House was established not by me, but by my father. So when you say about you and your father, while my son is on this program as well, the presence of Chabad Lubavitch in Washington is now generational or a generational enterprise. So the one who established this program of the National Menorah, which has now become iconic around the world, was actually my father. Although since before my actual moving to Washington, I helped to develop it into the new phase that we see today.
Can you tell us about the history?
The history was very simple. In 1974, my father went to Independence Mall in Philadelphia and put up a menorah that was, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 feet high, just as an expression of a celebration of religious freedom. And following that, there were other similar menorahs erected in other places around the country. And in 1976, I remember as a little child attending the lighting of a large menorah, the largest possible menorah. It was 30 feet high, which I guess is about 10 meters, the highest amount or height allowed by halacha. And the mayor came to light it, and it was a beautiful scene, especially since 1976. We celebrated 200 years of independence from England, I'm sorry, but that's what the story is. And I remember thinking as a child, wow, this independence is very special. We could light a menorah in such a prominent place. And learning in school about the 200th anniversary of America and seeing lighting of a menorah by my father and the mayor in that square of Independence Mall. And let's note, when my father saw his father light a menorah, it was probably in secret somewhere in the Soviet Union. That made a profound impact on me and basically started what became a very important part of my communal life, which is building and expounding upon the message of Hanukkah and specifically menorah lightings. Now, I must add that when he applied 2 years later in 1979 to create what is now known as the National Menorah in Washington, D.C., the application was denied. And at that time, there was a domestic policy advisor to President Carter named Stuart Eisenstadt, and he went to the Secretary of Interior, who denied the permit and said, you have two choices. Either you give them equal treatment and allow this menorah to be erected there, or I'll go to the president on this and you're going to lose. So he approved the permit, and then President Carter came out to the lighting. The first time he exited the White House compound because of the Iranian hostage crisis that was happening at that time, and spoke about hope and light and the message of the menorah. We came to the tail end of that celebration because we had traveled with Russian immigrants who had, left the Soviet Union. And as we all know, the late 70s was a time of great immigration of Russian Jews to America. And when I saw them dancing with joy and the huge menorah, not even in Independence Mall, but even more prominently in what was Lafayette Park. We've since moved it to the other side of the White House now on the ellipse, for those who know the minutia of Washington geography. But to know that the police were there and guarding the celebration, it even further impacted me about the importance of this Jewish tradition in American Jewish life, and prompted me to become very dedicated to the development of it. At the end of the day, the sight of those people celebrating their freedom so openly here in the United States led me to believe that this is something that could be developed. Now, I will tell you, I will digress for 2 years of my time where I was sent on a shlichus, on a mission, as most yeshiva students in Chabad go, and we went to Australia. And Australia was celebrating its bicentenary at that time. It was 1988. And there was a Lubavitch businessman who had visited the Rebbe and came into the yeshiva one day all excited, saying, the Rebbe told me it's the 200th anniversary of Australia, and that it should be used for all kinds of great things. And he says, we have to do something special. And at that moment, we established what was called the Australian Bicentenary Hanukkah Celebrations Committee. And we had all the yeshiva students work together. So we had celebrations of Hanukkah all over the country, including in the brand new Parliament House, and the Prime Minister attended. And obviously that was more in the Commonwealth system, so it gave me some exposure to different societies. When I came back to the United States and we moved to Washington, I remember remarking to my wife that that was beautiful in Australia when Hanukkah was in the summer, and we can do a celebration in Sydney, Australia, and get thousands of people. But here in Washington, I guess we're going to have to get used to having a few dozen or a few hundred. And she said to me, oh, absolutely not. You'll work it, then you'll see you'll get thousands here too. And indeed, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, we've built it up to the point where there are thousands of people that turn out every year, and tens of millions who watch on television. And in a far cry from those struggles where I see you put on the screen part of the crowd, and if you notice the picture on the screen, you'll see a lot of media coverage as well. We've been on as many as 1,800 TV stations with a broadcast or news coverage covering this lighting. And today, in a far cry from the struggles to get the permission of years ago, the Secretary of Interior actually attends this event and is an honored guest as he watches that celebration of freedom on the ellipse. And I can tell you that there are many places where permission for a public menorah lighting and so forth are obtained in some small part due to the efforts here, because other governmental authorities see this and want it replicated.